Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing our USA run, and last episode we got Emperor Abraham Lincoln.
Sling, come and see.
And the slaves were already free, so Abraham Lincoln, being the absolute abolitionist he is, abolished his enemies' heads from their shoulders. And after putting down that very historic civil war, to prevent him from becoming emperor rather than just president, Lincoln helped the economy, and we went from around 250 construction to about 1,000, so we're about ready to pop off here and really come into our own. Now, as far as, foreign diplomacy goes, everyone wants Lincoln's help, and of course, the UK wants his help putting down the Irishman revolt, probably this revolt too, and so what we are going to do, speaking of revolts, is something a little revolting. We are going to cut off their access into the Congo by, asking for Lindy and Tanganyika, something like this, and so we will offer support. We will say, hey, transfer states, and of course, it looks like we already asked in the interim here. Yep, so we did, so we just have to get them to say yes. They accepted support on both the Arisen rebellion as well as the other one, and we have already put in an ask for these. Now, we of course are going to ask for more here, because there's nothing anyone wants more than Lincoln's help in putting down, their enemies, because they've seen what Lincoln can do to a tree. So on this other one, we will probably be looking, we could transfer states again, but I don't think that this is going to be best. I think instead we want to transfer subjects, and so we will look to kind of transfer the biggest subject that is available. There are some big ones, big internals here, and we would perhaps really want to eventually transfer the East India Company. Unfortunately, it does seem like they have fixed the AI's weighting in this, and they will be less willing to kind of make that sort of thing, and so we see New South Wales would be pretty good, can't get that, and so we might have to settle for Cape Colony, which notably will deny the UK a native interest down here anyways, and so we will go for Cape Colony. Actually, yeah, Cape Colony is good. We already got the chunk of Columbia District that we wanted, for the USA, which everyone knows stands for United Sovereign Archduchy, because you need an emperor, and he needs to be Lincoln. Also, I think it's worth mentioning or reminding that a central feature of this run is at the very beginning of the run, we did decay down to a major power very, very intentionally, whose purpose was entirely, you see we're well above what's required to go up to GP, but we are inside the UK's customs union. And we have done that so that we can siphon off those tasty, tasty pops, which now that you can, get pops migrating that are discriminated, we of course have Bengali, Pennsylvania, because, obviously, and Tamil, Texas, because also obviously. Have you been to Texas? It's full of the Tamil people. So something to note with how we managed the Civil War earlier, last episode, or Reconstruction as a whole, which has kind of been a feature, is we now have African American as one of our primary cultures, which has African heritage. So, these two provinces that we just peeled off of the UK, not only does this stop their ingress into the Congo, which is generally a strong strategy because we will be able to get an enormous amount of this land here, but also, once it's fully colonized, we will be able to incorporate in 5 years because they will both share African heritage, and this is why, you want to go African American, because these states are pretty good, and we wouldn't mind building in these states. They have iron mines and coal mines, and they're going to look pretty good. Also, we have increased migration attraction to unincorporated states. We maybe actually don't want to have that coming in here because there's malaria here, and so the fact that we can incorporate it faster, which will mean that we don't have a bunch of pops coming here to die. Coming here to settle. That way, it's more of the native population that is not going to be subjected to this malaria malice as a result of still being part of a homeland state. Also, further up north, we did peel off a war. We wanted to reduce autonomy with our Confederation of the Rhine, which I think it's going to be pretty meta to form this with just 2 tiny little powers and then make them your puppet before integrating, and Hanover jumped in, and we were delighted with that because we wanted to puppet Hanover anyways, and so, or protectorate them, and so what we will do is we will reduce these guys to a dominion. In 5 years, we'll reduce them to a puppet, and then we will vassal feed them Hanover. There's an event chain that allows you to fully give it to them, and so in doing this, instead of having to go protectorate on Hanover, and then dominion, and then puppet, and then annex, we can instead just protectorate Hanover, and then turn it into Confederation of the Rhine, which is already a puppet, which down the line will give us a more efficient annex. And also Hanover actually does have a decent amount of oil as a province. Like, it initially maybe doesn't look too good, but as far as German provinces go, it has a decent amount of logging and also oil that will eventually appear here. We just researched dynamite, which is a fantastic technology, especially now in 1.5 where explosives are generally buffed. And now we're getting in on pump jacks, and you know what that means. That means we're one step closer to becoming an oil baron. So let's just slot in some of these PMs real quick, which is going to be much better. It says that it's not going to make as much money, and so this is probably indicative of a general lack of, or maybe an abundance of coal there in that case. But this will make our explosive industries a lot more profitable, and we will also take a look at expanding those as best we can. Now, we are hemorrhaging money right now, which is kind of, maybe Lincoln was a little ambitious with his 1K construction bit, but we also crossed the threshold of 1 million GDP, and I'm pretty sure we can build into this and just cruise at 1K construction for the time being here. So because you have increasing marginal returns on throughput, your first additional building of throughput effectively gives you 102% of a building when you go from level 1 to level 2, but your 51st, very critically, is worth 200% of a building because you get the 150% from the 50% throughput on the marginal building you built, but also every one of those 50 buildings before it go from 49 to 50, and so it's effectively 200% of a building, and then it falls off and it's just flat. Every single one will be 150% of a building, and so when you have a throughput in the range of being extremely high, it's going to be very, very useful to expand up to 51 if you're at like 30, whatever. But if you're going to not be that high, it's very often going to be better to have a consideration for MAPI. And it seems to be the case that explosives industries are an industry that you might not be building up to 51 that often. And so what we're going to do is we are going to decide where to build explosives by looking where we have earnings, where the earnings are best, and then putting a smattering down in those places. And we know there's a fair amount of mines there, and we would prefer, places where we know that they also have inputs for the explosives, which is going to be paper, sulfur, fertilizer, and so we'll just put a smattering around. It would be better overall to put where we have a lot of sulfur, and maybe we'll lean into that a little bit with the taller ones, but we will put in kind of entry-level ones where we know they're going to be very profitable. We do have sulfur in Texas, and so we are also planning on putting in, generally speaking, in Texas, where we have a ton of labor, because, all the Tamil people like to go to Texas. We will be putting in that and also explosives, and we'll put both of these on auto expand. We also have to, and forgot, of course, to put in that, which is definitely explaining why some of those PMs weren't looking better, and so we should be a little bit better. I believe we also get, the munitions plants also comes up at the same time here, and so this should be a little bit better, and we will also produce ammo here, which is going to have a nice sort of everything's kind of built together, where the sulfur feeds off of the fertilizer, which requires the sulfur, or the sulfur goes in the fertilizer, and the sulfur and the fertilizer go into the explosives, and the explosives go into the munitions, and the munitions go into the relatively high-level barracks we were planning on building there. I thought we had built a barracks, though. Well, we will, because, you gotta have guns in Texas. So we decided to go commercialize agriculture. In 1.5, there are some changes that allow the PV to get a lot more powerful if you're either on commercialized agriculture or homesteading, which is what we just swapped off of. And I think that's just really being observed here we have an enormous petite bourgeoisie, but maybe it's just, the magnetic charisma of Abraham Lincoln. This is a possibility. But now we have a little bit of a choice in terms of where we are going, and I'm thinking we're going to want to go for guaranteed libs, but unfortunately I think Lincoln doesn't like that, which is kind of big yikes. That doesn't sound like Lincoln. Maybe it's all that vampire slaying that got him feeling a little bit down. So instead, we will be looking for something else that we can do. We have no migration controls. We could get onto poor laws pretty easily. I think that this will be a fine one. Except we already have really high approval on the Industrialists. It's maybe not important. We do wish the trade unions come on up, and maybe we just chill for a little bit. We could also, while we're already on we could go ethno-state. Truly the non-Lincoln way. But Lincoln supports it. Yikes. Because we know the type of future that's coming, we did reduce autonomy in Tripolitania, and now we're going after Nejd. The idea being, of course, these places have a lot of oil. Notably, also, north of the Caucasus has a bunch of oil in Russia, but that's a little bit harder for us to get at. Of course, we will get a little bit of prestige, very prestigious. Going after Persia maybe would make a little bit of sense, but this time we didn't see a sway from the Ottoman Empire for becoming a subject. Instead, we see a sway for a trade agreement. And so this war, even if it pops off, which we're very much okay with it getting to a back down point, we should be able to get in on Nejd. Now, we are going to also just try and fight the Ottomans, and, you know, we're okay banning slavery on them as well as maybe just, you know, taking some more reps or something like this. Oh no, we can't let them leave. We, of course, are delighted for there to be, you know, those gold collapses, because then we can add the gold mines. A little bit careful in Nevada, it's currently overbuilt, doesn't have enough labor, but in Northern Cape, we have more than enough labor, so we will put in the mines. Of course, sending the children there, right? Yeah, child labor still allowed, so we will be sending the children to the mines. So Nejd back down without a fight, and we also noticed that some of our armies, you know, some are full of African troops, a lot of them are full of, you know, Punjabi troops, Bengali troops, but some of them are not like the others. Some of them are indeed not like the others. Of course, we have to do, and of course, a reminder, we are in the beta, but some are not like the others. So we've gained about 30 million GDP since the start of this episode, you know, kind of just making small moves. We were going after Belungen, you know, we went after Nejd, we reduced autonomy in Tripolitania, we kind of expanded this. For whatever reason, it auto-annexed Hanover, so it's not working exactly as I expected, but we went from like minus 200k to a very, very nice, you know, even-ish balance. We could maybe start reducing taxes and try and pull in more migrants, something like this, but we have so much migration attraction anyways, and we also have really solid SOL, but we're up around 30 million GDP from the start of the episode. The line is starting to become very erect, and remember, it's not the size of the line that counts, it's the shape, and you want this linear shape where it looks like you're doing nothing for forever and then pop off, because this is indicative of you having really accelerated growth here. And so, you know, we are faced with a couple options, but given how we have so much available labor, like we have gainfully employed 8 million and then 11 million peasants, I don't think we want to pull back on, you know, the taxation level just yet. And instead, what we want to do is we want to keep the construction pumping up. We want to pump it up, and we're going to put a few down in Tennessee, Cape Colony, and we're going to have a bias. Notice we're sorting by the upkeep amount because this will be pretty good, and we are also, we know some of these provinces are extremely good, like Versat in Alabama, and we are going to build a lot more in those ones in particular, and we are starting to bring up some interior places too, like we're starting to get an industrial base here in Montana, which has iron, coal, and so we can do tools and steel here pretty well, even though, well, why don't we put in a construction sector here, knowing that down the road this construction sector will have access to cheaper steel as a result of, you know, what we've got going on here. We could even make explosives industry, but overall, well, actually fertilizer from the livestock ranches would feed in. Maybe we do this. So we'll just do this, and then we don't need a fertilizer plant, right? If we build explosives specifically, it takes fertilizer, but that's not the only thing that produces fertilizer. And I think we've been holding back a little bit on these livestock ranches, and maybe we let them loose here and allow them to produce some fertilizer. That way we don't necessarily need as many fertilizer plants. It's just that livestock is generally not that strong an industry, and so we don't want to promote it too much. It's one of the reasons why we're kind of in that shape, but it's probably better to overall use the thing. But we are continuing on here, and we are going to be adding this maybe 150 construction. We are still in the play with Belungen, which notably in the one of the states there will be oil that appears here. I think we also went after Kutai. Yeah, they're a subject as well. Oil will appear there. We're really trying to prep for, you know, our favorite oil baron RP here, because we have pump jacks coming in, and we have this big old company that's probably the best company in the game. First Transcontinental Railroad as well, big nice. But the best company in the game is probably, oh my god, scrolling is hard. Never. It's probably Standard Oil here, and we need to have oil rigs in the Midwest, and then we will be able to get huge railway throughput. But the first transcontinental railroad between the Atlantic and the Pacific, big nice. We will set up the Great Plains, giving migration attraction. I don't really think we want it necessarily. New Mexico would be nice because I don't think we have gold here, but Nevada, California, Utah sounds a lot more our speed. 200% migration attraction. So let's see what that looks like. So Nevada, notably, we are also encouraging in Nevada, migration, which is probably unnecessary at this point. 127 people real want to come here. Utah 92, 90, and then California 135. Holy snap! Wait, what? 4.4 million migration per year. Wait, what? What? There we have it. Now oil can appear. We probably should have... We were so excited about oil, being an oil baron, that we completely forgot that we really want to overbuild on the engines going into this one. And so what we will be doing is we will be looking to produce engines a little bit tall, because a lot of the places where there is demand for engines, we don't have any steel. And so we're going to build the engines a little bit tall, and we are going to build them here in Pennsylvania. We're going to kick like 5 to the front, another 5 at the back, and then we're going to come in and we're going to hit it from the back. No, what we're going to do is we are going to start... Yuck. We are going to start turning on some of these PMs, but we're going to really start with the dies. And I mean, we want to start... We could also do this, because that's probably not employed up because there's no demand. I think we'll find a place... like Transvaal, we'll turn it on. California will turn it on. Just looking to not turn on too much at one time. Actually, engines aren't even that expensive. At least not right there. So maybe we can turn on a bit more engines. But often with these ones, you will want to prep ahead of time. If you know you're going to have a massive influx of demand, and overbuild the engines. That way you're not humiliated when you try and turn on the PM by the little thing saying that you can't make it. Now, we do have an election. Unfortunately, the Intelligentsia wants to join Republican Party, which is notably not the party of Lincoln right now. It's the Democratic Party. But we also see a collapse of the clout of, Lincoln. So that's unfortunate. People have poor taste, and I don't know why they didn't vote for Lincoln. But now we can maybe slot in someone a little bit different, except here's the problem. Lincoln's the emperor, and we have to keep the emperor in government. So now we have to decide between, kind of which one we want. I suppose we could do this, right? He aligns himself with the military. We're kind of just chilling on law passing right now anyways. And then maybe coming in, we can, reduce taxes 1 notch, which, okay, we're not losing money, money's not real, and then we will be max legitimacy, which is going to still help us to generate more loyalists. We really do want to come on guaranteed libs. It's a bit unfortunate, like all the clout seemed to go to the Patriotic Party, and we would have much preferred, a big intelligentsia, and it is maybe worth considering going religious a little bit more, because we actually, if they were just 5% more clout, this would be really good for us on the evangelicals. So why don't we try doing something to try and increase their clout? We're going to try recruiting several evangelical commanders, and we're going to just promote them up. Because they're not even mad at us, they're giving us really strong bonuses. We're just going to cruise through here, and we're going to, through the recruitment of generals and the promotion of generals who are already evangelical, we'll see if we can get their clout above 20% for that tasty throughput bonus. We didn't even let the post-election stuff tick, and these guys decayed down even more. They had shot up in a weird way that we were maybe not expecting, and so they just shot back down. And so it will be impossible. And so now we're stuck with a bunch of evangelical generals, which isn't really what we wanted. But this isn't too bad. That's 75 is not too bad on the legitimacy front. It's not very ideal, but we can try and make some moves and pass some laws with this. I am scared of losing 20% interest rate, though. In terms of the government. So we'll just leave the government for now because we're paying quite a bit on interest. I guess it's actually maybe not too bad. So yeah, let's do this. We're going to lose one of the bonuses of these guys, but we do want to get guaranteed liberties in, and the Intelligentsia did have a bit of a come up. Now these guys, wow, are they still gonna, is it just +8 now? I know some of them are now +8. It is +8. Hot damn. Hot damn. We also reduced taxes 1 notch, so they might hold steady with that. We'll see. We could technically increase taxes, and then increase this to try and make sure we maintain approval. But I think it'll be fine. Who wants a... Yeah, we'll give them a promotion. And we'll continue on our merry way. This money, not real, can't hurt us, won't hurt us. In terms of the economy, we've begun switching to producing quite a bit of clothes and furniture, kind of spread out amongst our country, because the demand, of course, is spread out. And then we are building it tall in a couple key places. Like, so for example, Texas, we're building it tall. But other than that, we are sorting by, earnings and building in places that, especially with the clothes, where we have demand. Because most of the clothes, the inputs for clothes, we can't really source locally because there's a ton in dyes and silk. And so spreading these out and benefiting, from local demand seems like a pretty good shout. And being able to identify which industries are going to benefit a lot from local demand, as opposed to, economies of scale, is going to be an interesting heuristic. Like here we have in New York, for example, we already have a ton of furniture here, but it's one of the more profitable places for furniture. Why? Because the EOS is going to be valuable, the economies of scale. Also with Pennsylvania, also the inputs are cheaper because we have a, kind of this chain of places producing hardwood from the hardwood bonus. And, we are experiencing some of this. Never interrupt someone when they're making a mistake. You just heard it here first. But this is going to be pretty good. And we are reaching the point where we probably want to push an EOS bonus, especially because we'll really make good use of the hardwood being expensive here. So I think we're going to actually do that here in Pennsylvania, where I think we also just have an enormous workforce as well. Although I guess we're draining it out, but 4 million pops in Pennsylvania, not your usual, but of course, getting 1 million pops in California is also certainly not the usual. Very, very big pull as a result of the available arable land, really just siphoning off a ton of pops. And if we wanted to tone that down, I guess we could just build over a lot of this arable land, but I'm not sure that we want to be doing that anyways. Do we want bolt action rifle 6k progress? I think we'd rather have 6k progress. Thomas Jessup. Is this a unique event? No, this isn't the unit guide, but interesting. I don't think I've seen this one before. Very interesting. We are going after Sulawesi. Ooh. Did we get wrecked? How did our unit die? How did our unit lose? How did we lose against such reckless hate? Alright, so I guess we'll have to land them. Yikes, though. But I guess, or are we occupying them while they're occupying us? This Krakow thing we just did for an obligation. It's really not that big a deal. But the main thing I wanted to point out is we're going after Borneo. There's oil here. We want to be an oil baron. We know it. If you have oil and you know it, clap your hands. And then there's also gold on the other side. So we've slowly been going after this, keeping the infamy relatively steady. But we are probably going to look for a relatively high infamy war. And I have a feeling I know which one we're going to do. And I have a feeling that other than the loud car outside, what it might be going after Persia, because a ton of oil appears here. Just the problem is, as soon as they're in our market, man, are they going to siphon off a ton of pops from the Raj. What happened here? Wait, what? Bruh. I guess the AI is not very good at doing landings anymore. Bruh. Alright, well, stuff happened. It happens, as it does. So we get reinforced concrete, which is, going to be a little bit spooky, given that we kind of can't afford the construction we have as is, but I do believe reinforced concrete is a particularly strong tech because it will allow you to push economies of scale, in places where you can really benefit from stacking your construction quite high, because not only is it just giving you more throughput on construction, because throughput on construction's really just kind of like building more construction sectors in 1.4, but in 1.5, it's like building more construction sectors where you have already your cheapest construction sectors placed. So in Pennsylvania, we, relatively speaking to other places, pay a lot less for our construction goods, and so getting throughput there and in all the other places where we have, this vertical integration is going to be tremendously useful. We also are moving in on plastics with the understanding that we are going to need to create demand, and this is a very far ahead of time research, but we want to be able to create demand for oil kind of as soon as we can, and this is going to be kind of the premier oil demand spot. You know, cars are just like not really that good of a PM, although combustion engine derricks are quite strong, and we will at the very least research a good chunk of plastics. I mean, maybe we want to go steel rail cars into plastics. We will see what NAT spreads after electrical generation, and if it's either shift work or steel railway cars, we'll probably switch to the other one and then have plastics come after. But this is kind of the idea regarding our research at this point in time, you know, really trying to lean into the oil baron stuff, and unfortunately we haven't found very much. Just, you know, some in the Trucial coast, which of course is going to be a source of a lot of it, but we'll put it on auto expand, and we'll cry and twiddle our thumbs and wish we found some more. So, being the greedy American oil seeker that we are, we decided to go after Persia, which has a bunch of oil right here eventually. And we stuck our hand in the cookie jar here, and they want Sind, the UK at least. And so, we have two options. We could either throw off the chains of mummy and say no more taxation without representation, or we could just give them Sind. You know, I never really liked living in Sind, and so I think we will just transfer Sind here, and this will probably get us a back down from the Persia, but what we will do is I think we will avoid putting in any additional war goals until full escalation, because we've seen stuff get really world war-y, and we are a little bit concerned about a bunch of people joining against us and dogpiling us, and so we'll see how this shakes out. We get electrical generation here, and this really does begin kind of what will be a pop-off for New York specifically, and what we're going to do is we're going to put down some electricity. We're going to take a look, where do we have like the most GDP, and we're going to put down some electricity in these places. We're going to put down 2 10 stacks in kind of the highest places, which is Pennsylvania and New York, and then we're going to put down a 5 stack in each of Texas and California, and then we are going to start ratcheting up PMs. We do have to be a little bit careful we don't accidentally build electricity in some place that can't really supply the demand for it, because then the auto queue is a little bit aggressive and strange, and the AI is weird, and they'll overexpand it. And so this is why we're kind of focusing on a few places right now, but very importantly, electric streetlights is a really strong one, and it'll be extra strong in New York, because New York has the very, very powerful Niagara Falls bonus for plus 20% electricity building throughput. The war has begun, started by Emperor Lincoln. The war for oil in the Middle East, started by the United States. What could possibly go wrong? Now that we've got guaranteed libs, which is going to help us to develop, you know, a larger pool of approval overall by generating more loyalists, now we can pass that which Lincoln really, really wanted to pass.
Sing, come and see.
Yep, we're gonna go censorship. Because we want the petite bourgeoisie to be happy. We're tired of getting this malice, and censorship is actually, you know, minus tech spread is kind of a negative modifier, sure, but you can just build more universities to overcome this, and, you know, just have a bigger overflow on your tech spread, and it's really not a big deal. But the big reason why you like rights of assembly is because it allows you to go guaranteed liberties to begin with, which is kind of the best internal security. But now that we have guaranteed libs, we say, sorry, Daddy, we never meant it, now you can shut our mouths. And so we will have Lincoln, of course, be happy that we are engaging in censorship, and we will get the 10% bureaucracy back, which will be nice, and we will probably reform a little bit here. Something like this, a little bit more legitimate. Why don't we do this? Because that way we don't have to slot out as many people, and we will be more legitimate, and we will have, you know, more loyalists from standard of living increase, etc., mostly etc., and we will be well on our way to have the repressive regime that Lincoln always wanted. You know, Lincoln was, you see an abolitionist here, but you gotta remember, he wasn't very tolerant of vampires. Abolitionist as in, he abolished the vampires. So it seems like there's a new thing here where you can no longer swap to something, a PM that requires electricity, unless you actually have it. So here, if you see, we can't actually swap to electric streetlights. And this is so that you can, I am assuming, gauge in mass swapping. And so, for example, if we come here and we swap to electric streetlights, I'm guessing it swaps only the ones that have access to electricity, which is going to be very, very, very nice indeed in terms of the UI and is going to help us out. I think you still will need to micromanage, but this is much more manageable as a micromanagement requirement, and so we will be, swapping all this on over. Texas as well, they have a decent number of urban centers. They're not finished yet, but Texas and California, once these come through, then we will swap all the logging over to sawmills, which will only swap, the logging that is in these electricity places. So this is a nice change from the last iteration of the beta when this was not in place, and we will look on getting that down. We'll also probably look to slap down electricity wherever, we're going to take a look wherever we have, over level 20. Why do we not have that built out? Oh, because we just got it. That's true. We'll also capitulate here. Enough work's been done. And any place that has an enormous amount of logging, so New York, we're going to take a look at Maine. We're going to build electricity. Massachusetts. Maine and Massachusetts mainly. Yes. Oil. We've discovered oil in a few places, not yet in the Midwest, but we will certainly discover some in Persia eventually. And I think we're going to conclude this episode on this note, because this episode, we have invaded the Middle East for oil as the USA, which is, classic history repeating itself. We do see... Russia got a little naughty with the Netherlands, or Netherlands were willing to give up the bag, and so maybe we'll be protectoring the Netherlands sometime down the line, but right now we do have a pretty piece of infamy from, invading the Middle East for oil, as it were, but we did have a really nice come up in terms of the GDP. We started out with a huge deficit in 1K construction, and now we're at, 1,500-ish construction. We came up around 60 million on the GDP, around 60% on the GDP, and, feeling in pretty good shape, about ready to add construction. All of our top-line metrics are looking really good. We haven't been punished for invading. We did have to give up Sindh, and, we didn't really like living in Sindh, so now we're not doing that anymore, and the British took that over for us as a favor. It's mainly that we just didn't want to leave the market yet. We're still really benefiting from the migration, although if Russia invites us to the market, we will be joining Russia's market instead, because they have Xing, and so in their market. So last episode, I think we had the option to join their market, and we chose not to. Hindsight, that's probably a mistake, given how consistently Great Xing joins the Russian market in the current patch, and so we'll see what happens. We will eventually want to break free ourselves, and maybe we'll take a look at doing that next episode, but it's too hard with all the tasty pops. If we take a look here and look at the charts, and we look at, our kind of stuff, we have 15 million Yankee, which this is including all the individuals who got converted to Yankee after migrating to us, and the next is Bengali with around 10 million. So that's helping us out a whole lot to have a really nice crank up. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed USA invading the Middle East for oil. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment about invading the Middle East for oil, and have a good day.